Feel the magic, join the remembering. Hi, Atta. Welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
hi Celia. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. We managed to work out our time zones, which is so weird, isn't it? It's always kind of crazy to think that I'm here at the end of my day and you're over there
Right.
in Bali and and starting a new day.
Starting a new day. It's still very cold. It's the middle of winter here.
So very nice. I believe in love of land, each other, and all living things. I'm a hippie. Are you?
Yeah. Well, I believe in peace and love for sure.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely. I mean, peace and love. You were born into a world emerging from World War II. What kind
right.
what kind of life did you inherit from your parents? Was that something that, influenced your upbringing?
Yes, it was a very stable life. My parents were good Christians, Presbyterians, and my father was a pilot. So I guess every time he came home from a 2-day trip, the happy homecomings usually brought another child.
I did.
My mother was pregnant every 2 years
Wow.
with a new one. And so I grew up in a commune, really.
How many siblings were there?
10 of us.
Like, wow, that is a lot, isn't it? That's
10
amazing.
of us. And I was number three and the only daughter for half of their time. So I was definitely mom's right hand helper.
So your dad didn't actually fight in the pilot in the war?
No, he didn't because he was already a pilot and they needed him to be an instructor. So he only went down to Arkansas to teach other men to be pilots.
Is that how you became a stewardess? Because he was in a pilot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, all 10 of us got involved in the airline business.
Did
It
you?
was just we grew up around hangars and
I mean,
and
I was
yeah.
thinking that at that time it was quite glamorous and expensive and kind of unusual. What kind of opportunities awakened in you by being able to have access to the ability to travel?
That's That's the main thing, travel,
Yeah.
underlying travel, because that's what sort got me into out of the country and to seeing the rest of the world. After about 7 years of being a stewardess, I decided I needed to be out there and seeing the rest of the
But
world.
I don't want to miss out on California because I feel that you were in California, really at the time that the kind of counterculture was really breaking open. What was that like for you? What did it allow in you that you're
It it really allowed me to live in both worlds. Oh, I had smoked a little bit of pot before I left Milwaukee. I got the station that I really wanted, which was San Francisco, because that's where everything was happening. So I was delighted to be based there. And on one of my flights, I met a man named Tom Donahue, who was the big daddy of underground radio.
oh
And he
right.
invited me to come down to the radio station in San Francisco. And that opened a lot of doors for me because that was, the counterculture brought all of this wonderful music. And
Absolutely.
I met a lot of crazy characters through Tom.
I mean, I love the choice of music get together by the young blood. Just
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the songs still make me cry today, and I wasn't even living during the era. I mean, music became such a powerful form of protest, didn't it? Did you find the experience of the music spiritual as well? I mean, was it just something that was super fun, or were you being kind of moved in a way that you hadn't been moved before as well by being in California at the time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already was a spiritual being,
Yes.
although when I turned 18 and didn't really want to attend church anymore, that my parents didn't really protest. They understood that, my interests would be in other things. Once I moved out to California, part of the counterculture was the Tassajara bread book from the monks. Eastern religions were very big and popular, so it just slowly absorbed into those things. Macrobiotic diet, and
Yes. This was all happening in California at the time.
it was all happening there for sure. It was written by a popular monk,
Hmm.
and I can't recall his name. He did offer up the Tassajara bread book, and we all used it to make muffins and things we could make. My second apartment in San Francisco was on Upper State Street, and I shared it with my best friend from Milwaukee. She flew out, and together we got this unfurnished apartment.
Oh, so,
And
oh my God.
the apartment was fine. All we had was a blow up mattress. So we slept together on this blow up mattress that had a slow leak, and then every morning we would wake up flat on the ground, but it didn't matter. All we could afford to really eat was canned sardines and brown rice, which we also figured was, a macrobiotic diet.
Very
So,
good. Yeah.
it was great because we couldn't afford much else.
We chatted earlier about how you like the sexual freedom of the era. What did that freedom mean to you as a young woman? And did you think that you were as free as the men of that time?
Woohoo! Well, that was birth controls came out, and then, voila, that was the go sign. So, yeah, we really enjoyed sex because it didn't have stigmas other than like, yeah, make love, not war.
Yeah,
So we were
absolutely.
all happy to support the motto. And yeah, it was really nice.
I'd like to just explore this a little bit with you, because I'm like growing up in London, reaching my sexual maturity in the mid 80s. I mean, it was so great to be able to be free, but there was still some stigmas around it and some abuse a bit in it. Certainly, we're seeing that manifesting itself now. Like back in the day, like being with somebody that was a bit older than you was kind of perfectly normal. Now it's kind of called grooming. I just find that really fascinating. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the kind of innocence of it, whether it was always innocent for you. Did you ever come across stuff that you found, anyway, just a little bit, because it's such a big subject.
Yeah, no, it was great to have that freedom. One had they also had the free clinic that you could go to if you got a sexual transmitted disease, you know. I mean, actually, it was a joke amongst it. No, it was commonplace. If you got crabs, you had went for A2100, which was the lice killer. Being in San Francisco also made that much more easy. I
Yeah.
remember mm, going home and my mother drilling me on how things were and asking me if I was a virgin, which I, of course, was not by then.
Did you say you
But
tell her the truth or yeah?
yeah, it wasn't quite accepted in the
No,
Midwest,
no, I can
but
imagine.
it was normal in California.
Yeah.
So normal.
That was the other thing about the 60s, wasn't there? And it was that there was an innocence that I think
Yeah.
are unique to that time. Like, we know that the things that come after that then distort that. So you just had this amazing window of time, didn't you? Where, as you say, make love, not war was something that you could really enact.
Yes, I must say, I'm really surprised today, Celia. I don't really think that the young people have much sex.
And I've heard this, this is what they're
I
saying.
don't I don't ask them personally, but kind of, I hang around with a lot of 30 and 40-year-olds in the theater work that I do, and I just get the feeling that they just don't it doesn't happen much for them, and I feel bad for
I
them.
agree. I think recently that was kind of exploring, like, even it down to the extreme, almost like a competitiveness of men saying they can have robots and almost like, well, I don't need you. And I mean, I do think must have a lot to do with the fact that we just live in these worlds where we're just in our heads all the time and can almost bypass the experience of our bodies by just living in this. What do you think are some of the reasons why it's like that now, you know?
I know, and I actually am kind of sad about a time of freedom and fun that we did enjoy, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know, it seemed really hard for young people to get together.
yeah,
Um, and you know, it wasn't any big deal if you spent the night with. I've never ever regretted a single one night stand. It
no.
was always lots of fun. Thank you so much. See you
Brilliant.
later.
Yeah, that's so brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
interesting. And I certainly feel like my generation were really enjoying it. It's how I, in some ways, kind of learned about Osho and Tantra and this thing I'm realizing where there's this connection between California, the counterculture, and then this journeying east. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I think you ended up heading to Kathmandu, did you, from California?
Yeah, that was a spin-off from being an airline stewardess,
Mhm.
um, a hostess, as it were. When we did the training, the last thing they said is like, oh, they almost forgot to say it. And I'm supposed to tell you about this program called the Tom Dooley program, where you can get a 3-month leave of absence and either work on a medical boat up and down the Mekong River or at a Tibetan daycare center at a carpet factory. And it was incredible. When they said that, this light bulb went off in my head saying, ah, I will do that. And I did. I pursued it. You know, I had been flying for 7 years and even got into flying the Honolulu run, which was really fun
I bet.
because it had 32-hour layovers. And I wound up having a nice little double life because I had a boyfriend that worked at the airport there. He got off of work the same time our flight got in. So I'd throw my suitcase in the back of his pickup truck and drive for 40 minutes the other side of the island and just hang out with the hippies there. It was really fun.
I bet it was really fun. Was there a surfing community in Hawaii at that time?
The, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, my boyfriend, my lover's younger brother was a famous surfer.
Talking about the surfing lifestyle that kind of became a thread in your life, really, in the sense that Bali is a big surfing
Yeah.
community as well. What was Kathmandu like when you first got there?
That was a real turning point in my whole life. I finally got the job, but I wasn't going to start it for another 5 months. So I said, I'm going to go to Nepal and see what the place is like.
Didn't you say there were two jobs?
Yeah.
Which one did you go
And
for?
I definitely wanted to go work with Tibetans.
Okay.
I had actually, it was a photograph. Somebody showed me this picture of a little hut, grass roofed hut, in it was a black and white photo, and behind it was, you know, the fields, and above it were the mountains. And that photo just did something to me, and I thought, where in the world is this? And wherever it is, I want to go there. It turned out to be in Nepal. You know, I was following that dream too. And when I arrived, somebody I had met in California had been living there for 11 months, you know, and mutual friends back in California said, oh my God, if you're going to Nepal, you have to look up Mylan Melvin because he's been living over there.
Perfect.
So wrote him a letter and I said, hi, I hope you remember me. We met at Tom Donahue's house and I'm coming to Nepal. And I went to the post office. It was a funny thing too.
Post to Restaurante was such a big thing, wasn't it, when we traveled? I mean, the
Oh
post office
yeah.
was like the hub because before internet,
Yeah,
that's where you got all your mail and communicated with everybody, wasn't it? Right, basically.
right.
Yeah.
Post office was important wherever you went.
It was the hub.
Yeah. Yeah. I had gone to the post office to see if there was a letter from him. Coming out the door as I went in was a woman named Susan Darcy, who is one of my dear friends to this day. She
Oh,
lives in Bali also. I said to her, thinking everybody knew everybody, I said, would you happen to know someone named Mylan Melvin? And she goes, Mylan Melvin. And I thought, ooh, that's kind of loaded.
yes, it's
She had just come
that.
she had just come back from a trek with Mylan and his best friend Addison,
Wow.
and they had a falling out somewhere
Oh, they're
along
just
the
falling
way.
out. Wow. That's not what you expect to do on a big trek and have a
Yeah,
falling
so I
out.
just said, oh, whoops. And
Yeah.
then I went to look, and sure enough, there was a letter from him. And he said he lived in Bodhanath, which was maybe 40, half hour, 20 minutes away from Kathmandu. And I didn't know anybody when I got off the plane, except for there was this Englishman. And I asked him if he knew where he was staying, and he said no. I said, well, would you want to share a room? Just because, why not? And he said, yeah, sure. So we checked into the Kathmandu guest house,
Nice.
and I left the next day to go out to meet Mylan, and I never went back to that room for 3 days.
I
So
really,
yeah, because it was a great meeting. Milan was wonderful. We spent the 3 days hanging out, and then he had to leave because he was going to meet his girlfriend in Sri Lanka. One of those wonderful things.
yes. When you travel, it ends up being kind of quite a small community, doesn't it? And it is amazing how you kind of connect with people and bump into people all over the world. And Kathmandu culture, like cafes where you could smoke hashish and continue the conversations. And what were you talking about? Places to go,
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah. Well, Kathmandu, when I arrived, was still had the hash shops. And
Okay.
there on the window, like it was a bakery or something, there was, Nepali balls and other finger thing, the different places and the different types of hash. It was all pretty right there for sale.
Oh, really?
People
By
sitting
the
on
time I
the
got there, it wasn't. I don't think you could get like a bang lass. So wow, it was that accessible.
I was down there on Freak Street.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, I had a great time with Mylan. And then later when I got back in America and he was back in California, then I got together with him again. He was on his sleeping bag at his friend's house, and I went over to see him. And we spent the night together. And then I said, if we got married, you would have the same airline discounts I have.
Did she say that?
I didn't know that it was a marriage proposal, but it was actually, he said, "Oh yeah." And that's what we did. Got married at the underground radio station. Tom Donahue married us. It was because he had a universal life minister's card, which was good enough
Perfect.
at the time. And we had a little ceremony right there. Somebody produced a joint, somebody else had a bottle of champagne, and there was, maybe 8 people there. And Tom pronounced us man and wife.
Can I
And
ask you how
two
old you are, just to get the visual? Just how old are you when this is happening?
must have been 26, 25,
526.
25.
Sense of
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have looked so gorgeous and just been so sexy. And I mean, I bet did you have a good big party after as well? I mean, a happening.
A little bit awkward at first. I hadn't even thought about getting married, and suddenly, we're husband and wife. And I thought, oh, how do you do that? The hard part was my mother knew because I had written to her about this guy I met in Nepal, had been married to Mimi Farina, who is Joan Baez's little sister. It's like 6 months and then they divorced. There's a whole story about his life before he met me. Then I must say that I was married to him for 7 years, and they were the most adventurous years of my
Oh,
life.
really?
Yeah, we were trekking in the Himalayas and building daycare centers for children and getting it together a boat. And it was just, an extension of Hippydom goes abroad.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just because I'm finding like hippiedom has got a bit of a bad rap in parts of America. Got into heroin, dirty hippie, dropouts. And, I've been kind of surprised at how often I've had people say that to me because that's just not how I relate to like hippiedom. And so when I'm hearing you talking about the work that you were doing in the Himalayas and, the good spirit and spreading love and good feeling, that feels more in resonation with what I think a hippie is.
Yeah, yeah, I know. He's got a bad rap. And the drugs were funny. Tom Donahue married Rachel at the Jefferson Airplane House in the Haight-Ashbury, and the hog farm, which was this hippie commune.
The hog farm moved to New Mexico as well. So thank you for the link. So yeah, they did all the food for.
Yeah, they catered all the food, and then after the food, there was this beautiful bowl of champagne jelly with strawberries in it. And it was so delicious that I ate a second bowl.
I did. Oh
And
no.
then about 20 minutes later, I'm going, oh dear, what is this? And I went to I was still in charge, but I knew something was happening. And I went to the bride and I said, wow, nice acid in the punch. And she said, no, because her mother was there and she didn't believe it, right? But other people started to feel it. And I was actually one of the last people to leave the party. Peter, Paul, and Mary were there because Peter Yarrow was a friend of Tom's. He wound up crawling on his hands and knees back to his hotel room. I had my girlfriend with me and I drove the car, and I can't believe that I drove. When I would stop the car, my foot just went right through the floor of the car, and I thought,
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's
and I stopped the car with my feet on the cement. Thank God nothing happened.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You didn't jump off any buildings or do the cliches like that. But in the spirit of Rani, our beloved friend who we shared, I wanted to just ask you a little bit about your time at the Osho ashram and how
Uh-huh.
you came to be there. And I mean, because of Rani, all my feelings about Osho and his sexual liberation and his exploration into psychology. And I mean, I just think there probably shouldn't have been kids around. But apart from
Mm,
I think it was a really brilliant celebration of life. And I think he did a
right.
lot of people. What was it like for you there?
Actually, that was probably the most wonderful thing that happened in my whole life, really, because it just turned my life into a celebration, and it just made me really see what a gift life was. And it was all about song and dance, and I mean that's a part I loved. It was and meditation,
Yeah.
but I was living in Bangkok at
Hmm.
the time. Lady that I had met in Bali showed up and had such a nice connection with. I just like we were instant best friends or something. I just really had
I'm
this
picturing a
great
lot of these
connection.
moments of intuition, and I would just want to make a reference to your memoir, Whispers from Eternity, because it definitely feels like, you lived your life from intuition and maybe not a plan, but yeah, song and dance and the whispers.
Yeah, yeah. And being a Pisces, I've got a good intuition. In fact, all women have a good intuition. You should never underestimate that. Especially if your man is seeing someone else. We know.
Yeah.
But anyway, this friend who had been Christina showed up on our doorstep in Bangkok, And I said, Christina, how lovely to see you. And she said, yes, but now my name is Sangamitra. And she was wearing an orange robe and a mala. And I said, wow, what's this? Because last time I saw her, she was off to Hyderabad in India to train as a Montessori teacher. And somewhere along the way, she got sidetracked and wound up in Pune. So she was my first sannyasin I ever met. And she had brought along a little cassette of the Nada Brahma meditation, one of the meditations. And we had gotten our boat, which was our big dream, was to get a boat and sail around the world the rest of our life. We got the boat, and she and I sat on the rooftop of this boat and did this Nada Brahma meditation. And I just got so high
Yeah.
from from doing that. And it really spoke to me in my soul. And I was kind of hooked already then. But I didn't, and then another person came through Bangkok, another old hipster, wearing all red and the same mala. And I said to him, what can you tell me about this man whose picture you're wearing around your neck? And he said, I, I don't know what to tell you. He said, I'm just in love with the guy. And I thought, I like that. I could appreciate it. And of course, my curiosity was piqued. I had my baby. He was 11 months old. Just before we were going to take off on this maiden voyage with this boat, I wanted to go and check it out in Pune. So I took my baby and I went there and we spent a few weeks or maybe a month. I didn't have orange clothes yet, and I didn't take sannyas because I was just sampling all around. It wasn't about sex for me. Nobody comes close to someone with a baby.
That's interesting though, because I mean, that's a lot of people were going there because of his, not only I know, but for his free ideas about sex. But you weren't. So you were really going in for the love that he was able to manifest around him.
Yeah, yeah. We had our taste, went back to Bangkok, continued with our boat adventure, and I had a picture of Osho that someone had given me. So I brought it back with me, and my husband and his partner just laughed and said, okay, you know where you can hang that? In the toilet. We did, and it was known as the bog. They called it. Okay, it's the bog one.
The
So,
bug
you
one.
know, yeah, it's the bog. Use the bog.
Well, I know so many people from who were with Osho settled in Bali. Was that part of the reason that you ended up making Bali your home?
That was not it. In fact, when I arrived back in Bali as a single woman, there were very few sannyasins there.
Oh, okay.
And I got to feel the animosity from the general public because I was riding around on my bicycle with my red clothes and my mala. And, people would see me and just go, oh,
Wow.
I mean,
What was fueling that opinion? Why were they? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why they felt that. So I'm just asking you what
oh,
was
because there was already bad press about the sex guru
okay.
in India, and it was a cult and it was terrible and all. Mostly from parents whose children went there and they went, oh,
Well, the whole cult
or
thing was, people didn't understand.
yeah, it was a cult and that was disgusting. The ones I became friends with didn't care what I was wearing.
And Rani was the same.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
was thinking, when you look back at young people traveling through California, Kathmandu, India, and Bali, do you think they were escaping the Western world or searching for another way to live?
Oh, I think they're just searching out of curiosity, just like I would still travel just to
Yeah.
see new things I haven't seen before. Last October, I went to Morocco which I'd never been to before, and that was really interesting. I think they're probably just young adventurers off to see the
I
world.
know.
My favorite connection with Hippydom
Mm,
was the Rainbow Gathering.
mm,
I had heard about this rainbow gathering from the time it started back in 72 or something. The International Rainbow Gathering came to Thailand.
absolutely.
Being in
Yeah.
Bali, I thought I can do that. I can get myself to Thailand. And it was wonderful. And I loved it.
Mm,
And, the minute people start showing up at these remote, hard to find places, there's somebody in the tree saying, "Welcome home,
mm,
welcome home."
mm,
And it really was a welcome home to the soul, because it was a gathering of all these people in nature somewhere, and it was working together as a community. And you could go and help chop vegetables. You could go, and people were bringing their talents and their offerings of, African dance class at 10 o'clock, or Kawali singers at 1 o'clock.
mm.
And just meal times were wonderful. You always brought your own bowl,
So
and you
beautiful.
made a big circle. And this touch of my heart is, we are circling, circling together. We are singing, singing our heart song. This is family. This is unity. This is celebration. This is sacred.